Dr. Brenda Becker is the superintendent of the Hempfield School District, a McCaskey graduate, Distinguished Alumni Award winner. She's been a teacher and administrator in the School District of Lancaster and the Manham Township School District in addition to Hempfield. Her statewide and regional board positions recognize her valued voice on issues ranging from career education to suicide prevention, advancing early childhood education, business, college advisory committees. She was the awardee this past year of the Lancaster Chamber's prestigious Athena Award for professionalism. Brenda has been an hourglass presenter since year one when she described the coming open campus shared high school internet initiative. Fresh and thought-provoking and sometimes wonderfully irreverent, she cares about kids. Let's break out with Dr. Brenda Becker.
Good evening, everyone. How are we doing? Good. Well, I'm going to give you a challenge because you've been sitting a long time. So I want to see if you can take a quick stretch break without talking, because if I get this program behind, I'm going to get in trouble. So take just a second, stand up, stretch your arms, stretch your legs. Does that feel good? Okay, now you can sit down. For those of you who have heard me before, you know that I am an unabashed supporter of public education. As Sid mentioned, I grew up in the city of Lancaster. I was the product of a father who was a high school dropout, a mother who was the only one of 6 children who graduated from high school. We had 5 kids. I was the oldest of 5, living in a 3-bedroom house with 1 bathroom and no shower. So we were certainly not wealthy by economic means. And if it was not for the outstanding education that I received at the School District of Lancaster, I can guarantee you I would not be standing here today. So I am grateful to what that school district does on a regular basis, and it is what definitely what made me want to become a public educator. So even though I am a strong supporter of public education, I think we are so very fortunate in Lancaster County. I have yet to meet the one school system that works for all kids. And in Lancaster County, we have wonderful public school districts. We have wonderful private schools. Linden Hall, Lancaster Catholic, Lancaster Mennonite, Lancaster Country Day, many schools of lower grade levels. We have the largest homeschooling association in the state of Pennsylvania. So our parents are very, very blessed to have many wonderful choices as to what's going to be best for their child. So I was asked today to give a little bit of an update on some things we've done with Open Campus, but I wanted to broaden it just a little bit, because as we look at what public education has been for however many years as I can remember, we are still basically on the old agricultural industrial method of providing education. Why do we go from basically late August, September to June? Because our kids all have to get out to the farm. Why do we study math, then science, then English, then social studies? Because when we were in the industrial age and we had the assembly line, you did one step and then you went to the next step and then you went to the next step. Now, I don't know about you. It's been a long time since I had a day when I'm saying, wow, that was really an English hour. That was, man, this was my phys ed time. This was my social studies hour. So we've got to do a better job of making some of these connections that we have for our kids. When I look at public education, I think it's very clear. Regardless of the choices we have, we are still serving approximately 87% of the students. And even with the wide variety of choices, we are not finding that many students who are going somewhere else. We do not have the luxury of saying, hey, sorry, we're full, why don't you go over to Donegal? Why don't you go over to Manham Township? Your child costs too much money to educate. Your child has too many needs. Sometimes we've laughed and said it would be cheaper for us to buy a house in another district for a family than it would be to provide the educational needs. And I don't say that irreverently because we truly care about our kids, but they are some of the challenges we face. And every time you look at what is the most important thing for our future, and this was even done a few years ago when we did, some of you may remember, there was a Lancaster 2020 group that came together. And every time you get groups of community leaders together, education always comes out at top. This is the one thing that will determine the future of our community, how well we do. So some of the challenges we have today, obviously the politics. There is practically not a day that goes by that education is not in the news in some way, shape, or form. And obviously because everybody has had some kind of educational experience, everybody's an expert on it. You don't find a lot of people who go into their doctor's office and tell the doctor how they should do their job. Everybody wants to tell us how to do our jobs, especially when it comes to making weather calls. Just saying. Funding issues. The pension system, we just heard again at a legislative breakfast on Monday. Everybody knows the pension system has to be addressed, but nobody really knows how to do it. So every year, more millions and literally millions of dollars are going out of our budget, away from instructional programs to kids, and going toward the pension system. This has to be fixed. Special education and ESL. And again, I am not advocating to take away services for kids. Those kids need every one of those services they get. But currently in this state, we are funding every school district at 16%, assuming that 16% of every school district is the amount of their population that qualifies for special education services. So if you have less than 16%, you are a winner. If you have more than 16%, such as the school district of Lancaster and we do, then we have to take money from other areas to help take care of that. Obviously, unfunded mandates, testing you've heard about, I won't go over that. And increasingly, because of the challenges that our families are facing, and you heard that earlier when Dr. Levine was talking about how we're dealing with more single-parent families, how we have more grandparents raising children. We have many more parents who, because of the economic downturn, are working multiple jobs and really don't have time to do the parenting that they used to do. These sorts of duties are turned over to our schools, and we are to be the panacea for everything. Now, lest I sound gloomy, I truly believe there's opportunity here. Because when you're going along and everything's sort of smooth sailing, nobody ever takes the time to challenge the status quo. You just keep going along. So as we look at these challenges, we say, you know what? We can take a step back, look at what we do, and maybe there are some things we could do differently here than we've done before. We do not do a good enough job in our schools of sharing success stories. And I think part of that is none of us as educators, through any of our undergrad work, graduate degrees, nowhere do we get a marketing course. You get it in business, we don't get it as educators. Because we just assume you're all going to trust us with your kids and with your tax dollars, and you're all going to know that we're good people and we're going to do all the right things. And for a lot of years that worked. And actually that wasn't really a good thing because there wasn't nearly the accountability that should have been there. So today, people are asking a lot more questions. But we oftentimes have educators who are ill-equipped to say, how do we share the good things that are happening here? How do we let people know about this? We have to think about branding and marketing for the first time. First time in several hundred years. Now, our private schools have had to be good at that because they've always relied on recruitment. Our cyber charter and charter schools have become good at that. All you have to do is turn on the TV and look at the commercials and look at the billboards. But we in public education have not really done that to any great degree, and I think we need to do a better job of doing it to let our communities know where are their tax dollars going and what are we doing with their children, and let them know that we are a good investment. We need to build partnerships and coalitions. I'm very proud to be part of this Lancaster County community where we have a very high degree of collaboration. We look at the Lancaster County Community Fund Foundation. We look at the United Way, the Lancaster Chamber of Commerce and Industry, who is trying very hard to put a huge focus on matching businesses and education together to come up with common solutions. We have to get out of our education silos and only talk to fellow educators. We need to embrace the talent and the ideas that come from the rest of our community. A little bit about Open Campus. Some of you are already familiar with it. For those of you who are not, this is a collaboration between Penn Manor, Manheim Township, and Hempfield school districts. It was really very happenstance. The 3 superintendents were talking. We were at a meeting. One overheard the other 2 and said, "Can I play too?" It was very organic. It was not a case of, well, gee, who do we want to play with? But we realized very quickly that with that many districts, if we wanted to grow it, we needed not to get larger at that point. The idea is to break down the boundaries of time and space. We're having students, particularly our high school students right now, who before, when kids would work to pay for a car, to pay for gasoline for the car, they are now working long hours and many nights to put food on the table for their families. They are getting home late at night, and I sympathize because I know, like last night when I got home from a board meeting at 10 o'clock at night, I can't just go to bed. I can't turn it off. They can't either. And yet we expect them at 7:30, 7:45 in the morning to care about algebra. It's not happening. We wanted to provide real educational choice. As we listened over our districts to what our cyber charter parents told us, they said, we really don't want, in most cases, we really don't want all online classes and all traditional classes. We would like a choice. We would like to take some online and some in person. And that's what we propose to do. And we also could maximize our resources. As Dr. Levine mentioned earlier, case in point, we are the only one of the 3 districts that has a certified Latin teacher. Now students at Manheim Township and at Penn Manor can take Latin from our teacher. They don't have to invest in a salary and benefits. And in the past, where we would have canceled classes for low enrollment, we are now able to hold them, and in these challenging fiscal times, we can still offer a very rich assortment of courses for our students. So, some considerations, and I'll go through this very quickly. I think an important thing to note is PSEA is an equal partner in this. We have our association presidents at the table. We were trying to look at something that could be replicated by other districts. These are the people who were part of the steering committee: 3 superintendents, 3 high school principals, assistant superintendents, our president of the associations, technology directors. We also had some great advice from our Lancaster SCORE, which is the Service Corps of Retired Executives, and if you are not familiar with them, you should be. They have a vast group of people with a lot of different talents and expertise, and they provide that expertise for free. So they have been phenomenal in terms of helping us. We have had support from the Hourglass Foundation. We have had support from our local legislators. Our secretary, actually 2 different Secretary of Educations have been helpful to us, and other PD officials. Some challenges that we have faced. We needed to create a safe environment for risk-taking. Our teachers were a little scared. What if they didn't develop a course online that looked exactly like the one did back at their home district? Would other teachers get upset? Would we get upset? We had to be there to say, no, it's okay, let's do something different. We had to help teachers move from a I'm from Manheim Township vision or I'm from Penn Manor vision to we're all in this together. And it took a little bit of time, but not a whole lot, and that was kind of exciting to see. And we had to understand we didn't have all the answers. As a matter of fact, we had very few answers. We did research. We didn't find anybody else doing this exactly as we were. And we had to tell folks, we're going to figure it out as we go along. We have to be willing to say, we're going to make some missteps along the way, but as we do, we will make course corrections and we will learn from it, and that's something we can share with other districts. We tried very hard, as much as possible, to use open sourceware so that it could be customizable and it was not costing our districts anything. I mentioned working with PSEA, and I have to tell you, and this goes back to something else that Dr. Levine mentioned, there are too many places across this state where you have districts and unions fighting. You have a we-them mentality. You have districts blaming Harrisburg, districts blaming legislators, districts blaming taxpayers, taxpayers blaming the district, and it goes on and on. And as Dr. Levine stated, we have to do this together. We are not going to get through this on our own. And the more we can take a collaborative approach and say, look, there are going to be problems, let's get them out on the table, let's talk about them together, and we will get through this. And I have to tell you, as a result of what we have done, we had a high degree of trust to begin with between our associations and our districts. That has only grown. It has only grown. This is just two quick snapshots of our teacher developer days. This is an interesting group. This was a math group developing a course, and this is typical. We had one teacher from Hempfield, one from Penn Manor, one from Manheim Township. They didn't know each other before they came to work together. When we actually had them presenting to our joint boards together, they looked like they had known each other for 12 or 15 years. They were like brother and sister. Whoops, there we go. All right. Oh, here we go. Sorry. Some other things we did. To get students on board, we surveyed the students to find out how many had internet connections, how many were interested in taking online courses. If they were, which ones would they consider taking? We talked to our guidance counselors so they would understand what this is and what role they played. We involved our directors of special education and gifted education because they would have to provide supports in a very different way in an online environment. We held orientations for parents and students. And I will tell you that this was one of the things that we learned from. Not every parent and student attended the orientation. And we did find that those who attended the orientation tended to have better success than those who did not. And it helped for the students to see the teacher face to face before they started on the online environment. So we have now made that mandatory. And we also developed an introductory module. So regardless of which course you're taking, you take this module first to help orient you to what online learning is and whether this is a good fit for you. We had some legislative help from Senator Lloyd Smucker, and some of our House representatives helped with this as well. The previous Representative John Baer, Brian Cutler, Ryan Ament were all very supportive. I'm embarrassed to say that Mike Licklider and I are both former social studies teachers, and we didn't even realize the importance of the 1492 till somebody pointed it out to us. So that was a little embarrassing. But he did successfully get the open campus bill to pass. It did become part of the Omnibus School Code Bill of 2012. What that did is it made us an education demonstration project, so anytime we ran into a brick wall, they were willing to do a workaround for us. And that was huge, because when you're dealing with a school code that dates from 1949, and that's what we're still working with, folks, there's a lot of blocks. Okay, this is our logo. This was very cool because one of our representatives from SCORE is a marketing expert, Carol Albitz. She came and worked with some business students from all three high schools. We were originally going to do a competition among the schools, and we said, no, that's not what this project's about. It's not about competition, it's about collaboration. So we brought the kids together. Carol gave them a great educational lesson on what makes up a good brand, what makes up a good logo, how does it stand the test of time, and this is what the kids came up with. Some additional steps. We had our boards of school directors involved. They passed a resolution in support, and I'm very proud to say that since the first time, we have met 3 times as the 3 school boards together, and we have another meeting coming up in April, and that's been a lot of fun. We discussed options with our families. One of the things that we did, legal considerations. This is kind of interesting, and this is some of the things you deal with in reality. 2 of us work with Kegel, Kellenami, and Lord. 1 worked with Hartman, Underhill, and Brubaker. So we handpicked an attorney from both, Clarence Kegel and Bob Frankhauser, and we said, we want you 2 to work together, and you will split all the bills 3 ways, and that's how we're going to deal with it. And it's worked very, very well, I have to say, very well. So where we've been, first year, we decided to develop courses in math, science, English, social studies, and foreign language. We went for core areas, and we went with juniors and seniors because we figured they were the most mobile. We implemented those courses in 2012-13, and then we went on to get into some of the related areas as well as into grades 9 and 10. At the end of this, we surveyed all of the kids who went through the courses, both first semester and second semester, to find out what did they like, what didn't they like. We held focus groups for both faculty and students, again, to get a little bit more in depth, what's working, what's not working. And And that proved to be very insightful. So first year results. The students who thought the courses would be easy were very sadly disappointed. They thought that since they were online, they'd be more like a video game. And although our teachers have done everything they can to make them engaging and to make learning fun, they found out that they are still rigorous, which actually delighted us. Students with no initiation or motivation, and I think for obvious reasons, did not tend to do well in this type of class. Most students reported positive results. Overwhelmingly, the number one positive was kids said they felt that they had now developed time management skills that would serve them well in college. We were very surprised. We had fewer technical problems. We thought we would have a lot of kids calling our technology department saying, this isn't working, that's not working. That really did not happen. Now, the biggest issue, as you can see, when the teachers built the courses, they built links into the courses. So one of the things we've learned, and if any of you bookmarked a link and then you try to go back to it and says, no, we can't find it anymore, one of the things we learned is before you teach a course, you've got to go back and check all the links and make sure they still work, and if they don't, find something else that will do that for you. So benefits for students, individualized educational opportunities. We do allow both our kids and our teachers, if they are taking one online course, they can come in a block later or leave a block earlier. I don't think I have to tell you that particularly for some of our faculty members with young children, they like the idea of working from home. And they are very interested in expanding this. It allows kids to get out of school, so for those who need to work, for those who want internships, it provides more opportunity for them to do so. And it does set them up. We still cannot do this yet in this state of Pennsylvania. Again, did I mention School Code of 1949? We want to be able to graduate our kids early. Going back to the assembly line, how many of you have more than one child? How many of you would say they are 100% alike in everything they do? Exactly. We don't have robots. These kids don't all take the same amount of time to learn something, and yet we force them to do that. It doesn't make sense. Why don't we give the kids more time who need it? And for the kids who don't need it, why do we make them stay there? They could be doing something else. Okay, other benefits. We felt our teachers were very, very strong teachers, and we knew this way we could control the quality. We were breaking down barriers of time and space, and we were providing an expanded grouping of learners. Now, they are still highly competitive on the football field or the basketball court. Make no mistake about it. But together in this setting, very highly collaborative. We talked about the flexibility with schedule, and it's actually enabling us to save jobs, because a lot of students who may have considered going to cyber charter school because it's the only way they could get online classes are now choosing to stay with us. Taxpayers, we're a perfect example. We have about 2,300 kids in our high school. We already have 5 what we affectionately call learning cottages in the front of our school. We have no more room, and our younger grade classes are higher than what the older grade classes are right now. If I have all of those kids in that high school at the same time, we're looking at a multi-million-dollar building project. If I can provide education in a way that they are not all there at the same time, we may be able to avoid that. We have been bringing back cyber charter students, and I want to clarify that I think a lot of times people say, oh, cyber charter students, you're only concerned about the money you're losing. No, money is a factor for sure, but we are concerned about the quality of education our kids get. And we know that if we are controlling it with our teachers, we can guarantee a quality education. And we are using existing technology infrastructure. I can honestly say this has cost very, very little, and no more than it would to develop curriculum in other ways. Some other unexpected benefits. We were hoping that the developers would use these technology skills in their classes, but they are using them to an even higher degree than we would have even thought possible. And they've come to us now and said, we should write all curriculum this way. Why are we just doing it with teachers in our district? Why don't we get teachers together from across districts so we come up with a really even better product? So lessons learned. Have to have key players at the table. If you're not there, it's very time intensive for us. But if we're not there, it starts falling apart. You've got to be able to take risks. You've got to be able to tackle different schedules. And I already talked about the orientation. So, possibilities for the future. This summer, for the first time, we are going to offer several of our classes from Open Campus as summer courses. So for kids who want to take some of the required classes, get them out of the way so they can fill in their schedule during the school year with other classes that they want to get, they will be able to do that. We added it's not really a course per se, but it's a self-directed test preparation module. And this is a value add for all of our students. They can learn how to prepare for the ACT, the SAT, Keystone exams, etc. Of course, we're going to have to revise that now that the College Board just made changes, but that's something we will update every year. So this will be a free resource to all of our students for help in getting prepared for those high-stakes tests. They can take additional credits. We are looking forward in the future to kids being able to, for example, on a block schedule. Right now, they're taking 4 credits at a time. What if a kid wants to take a 5th credit in the fall or in the spring? Why not, if they can do it? What if they want to take 3 or 4 credits in the summer? Why not? The early graduation is something Acting Secretary of Carolyn Dumaresque is very much in favor of, and she's trying to figure out how to negotiate the bureaucracy in Harrisburg right now about that, so we're waiting on that. We are also looking to expand our traditional time offerings. We envision in the future having our high schools as really hubs of the community, more like a community college, where we would have the high school open maybe from 6:30 in the morning till 9 at night, and kids take courses when it works for them on their schedule. I don't know about you, I am not a morning person. How many of you are like me? I am so not a morning person. If I had the ability to go on a schedule that I start work at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, I would be very happy. I would probably be a lot more productive. I think if kids are taking courses in the way they want and when they want, I have a strong feeling that our student achievement scores would go up pretty dramatically. No snow days. I asked that question of Carolyn Dumaresque a couple weeks ago when we had a Lancaster Chamber meeting, and as a result of that, Representative Ryan Almond is going to introduce legislation very soon to allow for public schools to have cyber snow days. Now, in a year like this where I called off school 9 times, and one of those days was a makeup day, so now I need a makeup day for the makeup day, the ability of kids and teachers to communicate from home and have those days count would be terrific. So we truly are looking to transcend the boundaries of time and space as best we can. So stay tuned. We continue to forge further, and thank you very much for allowing me to be here this evening.